Hello, I hope you can all hear me. Okay. 3 years ago, a novel contagious virus hit the world by storm. Within months, it had spread all over the globe, leaving no place safe from its grasp. At the beginning, we didn't really know what it was and how to change our lives for the foreseeable future. Today, that's a different story. We all know it as the COVID-19 pandemic, and as we're coming to a steady decline, I think now is a good time to look back and identify areas of improvement. Underneath the surface, alongside the pandemonium, another sinister pandemic in its own right has been quietly festering in the background and has so far been able to keep itself out of the limelight. No more. This is the pandemic of misinformation. Walk with me and to take a journey back to early 2020. It was the beginning of a frenzy. At that time, there was still much debate as to whether COVID-19 even qualified as a pandemic or not. There was a lot of information going around, and as we all know, misinformation tends to go around best during times of uncertainty. And this just so happened to be one of, if not the most important times of uncertainty that we've ever experienced in our lifetimes. The scientific community soon swept into action, releasing information on how we can keep ourselves safe, how to protect ourselves. But they weren't the only ones. There were also a number of key groups sharing information on how we should keep ourselves safe via different platforms, such as print, media, news, channels, radio. But social media reigned supreme. Video clips and images were going around the internet, claiming to offer advice and share information and instruction on how we can protect ourselves. Most of it shared by our loved ones, family members who are concerned about us. Although noble, some of these materials may have actually caused more harm than good. In a sea of various claims being thrown around, each one trying to claim that they are right, how do you know who to believe? Will I believe the shadowy figures that claim to know it all? Or my kind, warm, loving aunt when she tells me that eating red onions will cure COVID? We live in the world of do your own research. But sometimes I query just how far and how accurate we can conduct research on topics we do not understand and were never trained to. After all, I thought that was the purpose of universities, why we spend so many years studying, trying to obtain a degree. The fact of the matter is this. Nobody is going to spend their time researching every little thing that they come across on the internet. It's much too a labor-intensive process with the sheer amount of data that is bombarding us every day. I'd like to think that scholars, such as myself, would be exempt from difficulties such as these. But that's not the case. Even among healthcare professionals, there is a wide and differing degree of beliefs and opinions that often clash. I mean, when it comes to life and death situations, how much are you going to trust your educational background when compared to your gut instinct? It can also be hard to trust the scientific community. We know they don't have the best track record, especially when it comes to conducting unethical studies and pressing whole groups of people. From the outside looking in, it can be difficult to understand. There are so many different studies and articles to read, each one claiming different things. More novel studies often disprove facts that we once held near and dear. It can be confusing, even though this is the purpose of the scientific method, to find out faults and improve. A good example would be at the beginning of the pandemic when they were like, no need to wear masks. And then later on, that decision was changed. I won't go into the reasons why, but from the outside looking in, it can look like scientists just don't know what they're talking about if they keep flip-flopping around on their recommendations. Often, the picture is more nuanced, warpy. It's hard to wrap our minds around the fact that even the scientists don't know it all. We just don't. It's easier to hold on to eating our red onions because it's a simple, straightforward answer, even if it may not be true. When our existence is threatened, we evoke the emotion of fear. And fear doesn't have a good track record when it comes to remaining logically sound and sane. It can often be difficult to sit down and spend time looking at every nook and cranny. It's much easier to just accept the simple, straightforward answer. You see, this fear we have, it brought out the worst within us. The ugly monsters that we hide underneath our beds, the underlying racism we have against each other, and selfishness when it came to sharing vaccines. It brought out the underlying distrust that we have in each other and in the structures that hold society together, as well as our place in the world. It brought forth the crumbling of an already cracking trust we have in each other. And if we don't have that, how do we move forward together? Misinformation has the power to drive a wedge between a nation. It has the power to make cracks into gaps, separating us. How do we then hold arguments and debates with people who have their own set of facts? How do I empathize with someone who makes fun of my beliefs? How do we build a bridge connecting the two of us if we're not even trying to cross the same river? Misinformation, information in general, colors our world and shapes our reality. What we see on our screens don't simply disappear when we turn our phones off at night. Rather, they permeate into our lives, affecting our judgment and driving our decisions. Let me ask you guys a question. If the decisions you made were based upon lies, are they truly yours? How do I do that, Philippine? Simple. An easy Google search. But didn't I just say that the internet was full of trash? That leads me on to my third point. Sources, and even more sources. We need to use trustworthy sources. These are stuff that you know, that you're used to, like government publications, the Ministry of Health, like newspapers that you read every day, the news you watch every night, or respected governmental organizations such as the World Health Organization. I like to ask the question, how many sources do I need to check? The answer is, drum roll please, never just one. I like to say at least 3. And if they're all in agreement, well then, you're in a safe place. So, now it comes to sharing information. This next tip might be a little counterintuitive, but let's say you're at a braai with your friends or at work in the office and someone makes some claims. What do you do now? red onions cure COVID. Will you listen? I know, right? This one is hard. But you just listen. And listen to what they're saying, where they heard it, their beliefs, but listen underneath the listening. When I had COVID earlier this year, my aunt came to visit me and she brought a giant bag of red onions. But what I heard was that I'm worried about you. I love you. I care for you. I want to protect you, and I'm so afraid. Aren't we all? The second one is empathy. You need to feel. We are all afraid, and we can use that to connect to each other. When we empathize, we build stronger and more lasting connections than we do when in arguments and in discussions of thought. As humans, we like to think that we're oh so smart, but really our brains aren't that cool. Really, we often think more with our hearts than our minds. The last one is easy. Relay. All you have to do is share what you know. Share what you found through verification. And that's it. No arguments. No, I'm right, you're wrong. But just sharing. And then we cross our fingers and hope for the best. Does this work? Not always. But it's a whole lot better than what we're doing right now. So imagine with me a world free of misinformation. I hate to break it to you, but that's never gonna happen. Misinformation will be with us, always. The only thing we can change is in how we handle it. This is my dream. That one day we'll live in a world that is more aware and better equipped in the fight, the never-ending battle against the monster that is misinformation. I thank you.